So these are iPhone 15, 16, and 17. Now, given this information, if you were given a pen and a paper, could you draw how the iPhone 18 would look like? Simple. Here we go. Long held a time when Apple was used to think different. The iPhone 15, 16, and 17 all look the same, except for the camera placement and whether or not it will have the notch. But then something different happened. In the midst of all of this, they announced Apple Vision Pro, a product so expensive that it puts 4090s to shame. But of course, at that price point, you get access to revolutionary technologies, like the iPhone. But when it was first released, and now to relive that same feeling, Apple did really think different, a different product, not like I don't know, Meta or Google. So let's see what revolutionary technologies we got ourselves this time. Do we got ourselves Oasis or just another Newton? Let's dive in. Does anyone else remember Newton? No? So, if you are someone who was born after 1998, which is the vast majority of Apple's cult following is, sorry, consumer basis, you might not be able to remember the supposedly revolutionary technology of the era, called the Newton. It was advertised as the groundbreaking technology that you would use for note-taking, I guess. Yeah, it lacked in functionality and features. It didn't even have a calling feature, despite costing the same or even more than the cell phones at the time. A really important point that I have covered in the video and why I think it's being repeated by Apple Vision Pro. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. The second fatal flaw of the Newton was the price, and boy, it wasn't cheap by any means. When launched, it was priced at $700. Adjusted for inflation, it sums around $400. Yeah, expensive than your iPhone, and surprisingly similarly priced to what you would pay for a 4090 Ti at launch. Interesting. But unlike your iPhone, this thing was bulky. Bulky enough that you would feel the tilt caused by it if you were to put it in your pocket, provided that your pockets were big enough to accommodate this thing in the first place. So, suffice to say, this thing was bulky, hard to carry around, and features were not great enough to neither justify the price nor the hassle that comes afterwards. For running the very few apps and features that were developed by Apple in the house. And surprise, surprise, those would never work as expected at times either. So let's kick things up by drawing the first point from our very brief case study of the Newton and its failure to appeal to its audience, and see whether our Apple Vision Pro will bear any fruit for the future. Not quite the same discomfort that Newton would cause, but enough of a deal breaker that should be considered as a priority with the many other things. Well, reviews all praise that the hardware of Apple Vision Pro does feel premium, but those same reviews are also quick to point out that wearing this more than an hour and you start to feel the discomfort, that it is not well balanced, that you start to feel the weight of it on your face once you get past that 1 hour threshold. A problem that could be even exacerbated if you haven't got a perfect fit, light seal that suits your face well. And apparently Apple was in a little hurry with the product as well. The exact cause we might never know, but they did make some design decisions that suggest it's the case. For example, the choice being made for securing the light seal with the magnets, to connect the battery with the magnets, that in turn is just 3 iPhone batteries stacked on top of each other, put inside a case, and which you would have to carry around in your pocket. So they really wanted to put the product out in the market really fast. Now, features are not quite the same as you might have watched in the movie Ready Player One. It's the thought. Remember how the Newton just had the features that were developed in-house because no one saw it as the next big thing? It was the same for the OG iPhone too. In fact, it wasn't until the launch of the OG iPhone that anybody considered it as a serious business opportunity to develop apps for it. And even then, for the span of a whole year, anything that you could use on an iPhone was all in-house. The first iPhone didn't even have an app store. Now compare it to the Apple Vision Pro and you will get that Apple Vision Pro is in a much better position from the very start. But there is room for improvement. The SDK is there, but the complexity of developing apps and features has grown exponentially over the decades. And there is the disconnect. What you would expect is not necessarily what you get. Now, partially it has to do with the way things being advertised and all the hype surrounding it. I'm sure the AR and VR worlds are somewhat achievable, but the promise that Ready Player One made to us, both the book and the movie, is a distant goal and will be so for the upcoming 20 years or so. We are nowhere near to anything like that. Now, one could argue, hey, we got ourselves those AAA games that you can enjoy in 4K. But remember, those games that you are talking about are being run on PCs with a dedicated graphics card, plus the CPU that in turn connected to a wall outlet and draws in upwards of 450 watts of power. You can't expect that from a battery-powered headset. And even then, your eyes are still king. And my guess is it will still be true for the upcoming 5 or something years, till the industry catches up with our OG God-given peripherals. Like I said, the supply for this product is a little immature. It's good, but the product is new to Apple too. Heck, it's their very first new product of the era. But things are going to get better, right? Well, if it gets the features that people want, to get the developers to build the feature and apps that those very people want, then yes, things are going to get better. But here is the thing. For the time being, the relationship between Apple and its partners, those developers, is not great, to say the least. The duo between Apple and Epic Games is still going back and forth, and frankly, the platform is even new to the industry leaders, and it's increasingly proving to be a hot sale for Apple. Now, success is subjective and depends on supply and demand. If enough people want a product, then you can create that product in bulk and bring down the cost of each piece by achieving economies of scale, which in turn creates more demand and sales and revenue that you can invest in R&D and creating an even better product and production process. It's a positive cycle, one that can make the transition happen for the AVP from a niche product to a market commodity. Now, of course, you don't want to become Nokia, who very famously first neglected the threat of iPhone and are playing the catch-up game ever since. And they are not alone. You see, the field of tech is at the forefront of advancement, and it's no fluke that the top 7 biggest companies in the world are tech companies. Together, they form the very fabric of our everyday lives. And what's crazier is that none of this unprecedented 7 and their fortunes are even 50 years old, indicating the fact that the tech landscape changes real fast as well. And the new entrants are just around the corner. If you are a tech company, you can't afford to be complacent. To not to innovate, the death of innovation could only mean one thing: going out of business. Don't believe me? Ask Intel. The company is going through some tough times. Reason? Innovation. Or rather lack of it. During the last 2 decades or so, they didn't quite innovate that much. Why? Well, frankly, they didn't have any good reason to do so. Because first, they were already 2 generations ahead of the competition, and second, innovation costs money. They were making a bank selling the same generation of CPUs with the little research and resources that required to maintain the status quo. The gravy train with the biscuit wheels came to a halt with the entry of AMD, whose processors were performing the same or even outperforming Intel's in certain scenarios. So yeah, you shouldn't be procrastinating on your R&D side of things. This brings us back to Apple. Yeah, they are losing money on the product right now, and yeah, it could be that the AVP is ahead of its time and the mass adoption is decades away from now, or will never come at all, or that it would prove to be just another Newton. But maybe that's what it takes, to keep experimenting, to put concepts out there, a blind faith in the product. It might work out or serve as the foundation of the next iPhone.